Welcome to the American Intelligence Media. My name is Douglas Gabriel, a.k.a. Thomas Paine, and today we are with our good friend with another unbelievable, it seems like a non-ending list of blockbuster research releases that, folks, I don't even know what to say about this. We're going to give you this report before it's finished because it's so big that we just can't discover it all at once. And so a whole bunch of people are working on this. Michael McKibben is with me today. Welcome, Michael.
Hi, Douglas. Great to be with you.
Well, Michael, I'm going to go ahead and attempt to try to frame this, and then it's going to be up to you because as you're...
I don't know if I can either, so we'll see.
Well, as you're working with the researchers, I did a tape this morning and said I couldn't figure it out. I tried. I knew something was there. I couldn't figure it out. It seemed too obscure. I couldn't look into the back door. Now you got all the people looking in every door, back door, front door, all doors. And you're discovering some amazing things, which we're going to share with people today. But let me first just say, like I love to say, I am patting you and us on the back because, once again, we pointed out before anybody that this actually existed, almost as we prefigured its existence. We knew it had to exist, and now we know the system that literally controls every single human being's ability to get on the internet, essentially. Yes. And you pay for it, folks, and you don't even know it. But let me explain this. When Americans for Innovation and the Anonymous Patriots found that Richard C. Walker, is it Agilent, Michael?
It's Agilent, yes.
Yeah, with his company Agilent. He used to be an HP guy. And somehow, miraculously, he creates a patent that says all other things that are going to have anything to do with digital control now will come to me into a control center, which he calls, basically, it's a remote aggressive control system. And this system wishes to control everything, folks, airplanes, everything. And Michael has explained it to us before because his deep research in this comes to light because these are the things that he enabled to be created for good and not to be turned to evil with the inventions and the trade secrets that were involved with the theft of Leader Technologies' amazing ideas, which scalable social networking, but much more than that. So what this is the end result of the people who are ripping off the trade secrets of Leader Technologies in a very clear way to say it, but also every American, every person on it. It shows that there is no net neutrality. And Richard C. Walker's patent on the Internet of Things is basically, we thought, an international patent that we didn't know whether they actually created that hub, that center. We could see that all of the octopus arms going out in so many directions, but we couldn't really find that exact center. We were told that that center was the Federal Bridge Certification Authority. Well, that's partially true. It's much bigger than that. It's a system that basically reaches in, and there is no exchange between any 2 points on the internet that doesn't have to have their approval, their certification, what they call trust, or what Michael often calls a digital handshake. Without that digital handshake, nothing's going to transpire. And before it can happen, you have to pay these people to even do it, to even go there. So this is a mafia-controlled protection system, a tax that flies under the banner of creating trust and certificates of trust. No, these are certificates that show that someone paid. It also shows that everything goes to them into a hub, and everything can come out. So you not only can you be surveilled, you can be targeted and attacked. And they have all the backdoor keys, as you're going to point out, one key basically, but they have all the crypto ability to get into all these systems from the Department of Defense to Verizon to banks, you name it. They have it all hooked up. And if you're one of the special people handling one of these hubs, I think sometimes they call them, well, I think they called them a tool, but a hub where these coordinating centers happen. That is what the Federal certification bridge authority is. It's one of the hubs, but it isn't the key factor. So I'm going to let you try to explain what we've discovered, because it is so complex, we can't yet finger the exact end result of where we're going with this research, but we can basically say, yep, we told you this was going on somewhere, and now we found it. So Michael, can you fill in the details?
Well, the end result of what we've discovered is the overarching authority that issues these digital keys. So, in short, when your computer hooks up to your ISP, there is an exchange of keys, encryption keys, that then will take the signal from your computer both ways. It'll come into the digital signals will come in and they will go out. And these keys, we're familiar with it now because we see the HTTPS on the beginning of a URL, and that's a security certificate that has to be issued by one of these authorities in this group that we've just uncovered. The one of the many authorities that many people are familiar with is Symantec, because a lot of our websites for ISPs force you to buy this Symantec certificate in order to have security. And recently, Google just required these certificates for even getting onto Google. So if you want to post anything to Google, you have to use one of these certificates. Well, one of the, besides the idea of security, and it is just an idea because it's a ruse for this group of people having a special key that allows them to basically tunnel underneath these connections that we all are using in order to grab data from whatever source they wish. And as we now know, the NSA is basically collecting everything. We knew that from the Snowden leaks, but now that's even increased in its ability to basically, it's easier, for example, to save everything than it is to sort through a bunch of digital traffic and only pick certain things. So what they've done is they've created a system that literally saves everything and then allows them to go back in and use these keys to get whatever data they're looking for. But basically, the group is called the Federal Common Policy Group, and it's the public key infrastructure that is on the surface managed by the group of chief information officers, CIOs, that run all of our agencies. Supposedly, this group of people gets together and they authorize these keys. And I say supposedly, but because it's very clear our government has nothing to do with the management of this group. This group was created in the late 90s during Bill Clinton, and they very quickly began setting up this system, and in some ways it's a hierarchical system that authorizes different groups of people to manage these certificates. So if you want a website and you want to have a security certificate, you've got to go to one of these groups and get a special number that you then pay every month to continue having access to that number. If you don't pay, then your website just goes off. And you have to do it, and there's no option not to do it. And so what we have is the digital version of a protection racket. That's the bottom line here. Now, the reason I say that is because the companies that manage this are all private companies. And they all, at some point along the way, cut a deal with this federal CIO group to get authorization to manage these keys on behalf of the government, ostensibly. And then these groups then subdivide those authorities. And I'm going to guess, I'm just going to use a number now, there's probably 100 or 150 of these groups. It's probably more than that, actually. There's actually a website where you can go, and it's interactive. You can look at every one of these keys and how they relate to every other key certificate group that's managed by the federal government. So what we've got here is the literal engineering hub that manages every literal connection that occurs on the internet. I'll stop there for a minute.
And essentially has 100% surveillance capacities and can go by any cryptological code.
Absolutely. When you know the key, they had to create a key that you used on your machine in order for this exchange to occur, because the website that you're going to go to then is told as you're trying to connect, oh, you've got a semantic key. It goes out and asks semantic, is this key on your list? If semantic says yes, then you connect. If semantic says no, you can't connect. It's that simple. That's how easy censorship is going to be going forward for anybody that is now not acceptable to the group that's issuing the keys. And that we see now with the censorship of the conservative media. So it's happening right now.
So we figured out their communication system, their surveillance system, their monthly tax system to the 4 billion people, or how many IP addresses are there? Well, every one of them is paying somebody, and that's a monthly fee, folks. So we are talking about a company that makes minimum, in the tens of billions of dollars, just one company. And there, as you just pointed out, there's numerous companies that are the hubs for these keys. So the federal public key infrastructure. When we were studying Richard C. Walker's Internet of Things patent, we saw that the PKIs were all over that. So they knew about this from the beginning of that patent. And they knew then, essentially, that as the Internet was rolling forward and you created for them the scalability of the Internet, they knew that it was going to be the biggest taxable system in human history. And it would be international, and all you have to do is create what would appear to be a federally approved kind of program, which we found how thin...
Supposedly neutral.
Yeah, and we found out how thin that was. This committee of all of the chief information officers for the cabinet-level positions, those people are like newbies out of college. They find out about this system, and then they go out and work in the system and make 10 to 100 times more because the system is corrupt. So if you know how to get in there where the money is flowing, and you see how the money is flowing because you're on a committee that they say has oversight to give a charter to corporations that then govern these things. Now, that was 2 paragraphs. That's how the government does it. In literally probably 6 sentences, they gave away every single person's privacy right to a corporation which is started off as being a Canadian monopoly telephone company merging with some weird thing in America.
Well, it was Nextel, the Canadian phone company.
Tell us about the beginnings of this spurious endeavor.
Yeah, there are several key master nodes on this chart at this website, which I imagine Betsy's going to put as a link below. But then this company is called Entrust, and it's in a small group that includes Verizon, Symantec, Treasury, State, FRCA, FBCA, which is called Federal Bridge, and ORC. And off of the Entrust hub is the Department of Energy, the Military Satellite Office, and the Health and Human Services node. And off of the Federal Bridge node, there are many, including the Government Printing Office, Verizon, USPTO. There's another listing for Entrust there, DigiCert. And so what we see here is the mechanism, the hierarchical mechanism they're using to manage all these relationships. Well, what became scandalous as we started digging down through this is that these were anything but neutral bodies. These were all private companies. These were all, I mean, you think about how crazy this is. We've got this central body that decides which companies are going to be allowed to play in this sandbox. and then everybody else is going to be cut out. And then you're going to give these people the ability to extort these fees from the users on a monthly basis in perpetuity. So it's very difficult to get information on some of these private companies because they never went public. But Entrust is a unique animal because they did go public, and so they had to disclose quite a bit about their operation. And in that was the devil. Because what we see is Entrust in 1998 was formed as a spin-off of Nortel up in Canada, up in Ottawa, Canada. And it was the security group within Northern Telecom, or Nortel. They went public. They had just bought, by the way, a security firm in Zurich, Switzerland, which, as you pointed out, is the home of the rogue CIA. But what they then did is they formed an American subsidiary and a Canadian subsidiary, and through a very convoluted set of relationships, established a U.S. presence that was controlled out of Canada. And in doing so, this company rolled on for 10 years, all through the 2000s, from the Clinton administration to the Bush administration into the Obama administration, managing all the digital keys for the Department of Energy, the Military Satellite Office, and Health and Human Services. So very critical elements of our infrastructure were controlled from Canada. Now, as an American, I got an issue with that, because as much as I may love Canada and I love Canadians, and I do, I have many Canadian friends, this is an abortion of sovereignty of our country. And it really fits right in with all the other research that our various teams have been doing related to how the British Privy Council and globalists from the EU have been working to take away our borders. And what we see in this particular diagram is a digital description of a borderless world. They took down the borders. They gave these contracts to private companies to manage, all of which are making out like bandits, and most of them we've never heard of. And these people, the dirty side of this is these people, anybody that controls these keys, can grab any of the digital traffic that they choose to grab. So in addition to the NSA collecting everything, these people can also collect that data and then use it for blackmail, extortion, whatever they want to use it for. And of course, they're all honest and would never do that. And so, why am I bothered by that?
Because
well,
it's the
I know
same
something
process.
about human nature.
You just see it again and again. Every time you look into one of these areas of research, we come up with the same patterns of self-aggrandizement, greed, and the other 7 deadly sins. So this Canadian company, you see, this is just so much like what we've seen before. Serco, for instance, when Obama hired a Canadian company to construct a website for Obamacare that cost more than probably all the other websites that ever came into existence, and it still didn't work. And then he gave Serco, a British-based company, the control of Obamacare. So only Canadian/UK/British/Queen's Privy Council get these literally no-bid contracts. And so here again we have a Canadian monopoly, their phone system, telecommunication system, bleeds over, and it looked to me at one point that they tried to create, and they did create an American version of that, so that it would be American-based. And then, then it's okay. The Five Eyes says it's okay. We can share the top secret information with, and give them all the crypto codes and go into all the Department of Defense with them.
The obvious intent here was to have this Entrust group run out of Canada, so it's not subject to U.S. law. And this is a consistent pattern with this Five Eyes group, which includes the CIA and the NSA and the FBI. And they, in order to break our laws, they get one of their buddies in the Five Eyes up in Canada or in the UK or in Australia or New Zealand, or where's the other one? I forget. they get one of their other buddies to do the dirty work, and then they get away with it. And with these digital keys, they can literally do anything, anywhere.
And it's so standard, just as you just pointed out, that they'll start these illegal activities through associations with other countries so they don't have to follow American laws. And
Right.
then once it gets rolling and it doesn't look like it's a big success, and then they have their American version of it, which is really not American, then they get it into the senior executive service members who make sure that they get all approval for all government contracts. And as you pointed out, it started out with the 3 of the biggest government contracts you can get. And then it rolls into, well, this is the way it's done. And then like some other companies might jump up and say to Entrust, we want a piece of the pie. And so Entrust might have to slice some pieces of the pie for them.
Well, this is a good another example of Saul Alinsky's call it exactly the opposite of what it is. They call it trust. They use digital certification. They use Certipath. They use Identitrust and various names, SafeBridge, and they're all the opposite. They're all screwing us.
Well, when we started this research, I said to you, I tried my best, Michael. Someday I'm going to have to ask for your help and all your friends, because I can't take this anywhere. But I have a very definitive sense that we've been told by Phil McConnell and others that this is where to look. The Federal Bridge Certification Authority. Guess what? It is not federal. It has nothing to do with bridges. There really isn't a certification. It's only a tax. You simply buy in. By the way, any radical Islamic terrorist can buy. They could get in and buy. All you have to do is pay the tax, folks. It has
and they could also be shut
anything.
down in 2 seconds.
All of them.
With this system.
They could simply do a query, give me the sites, IP addresses of every single person that talks radical Islamic fundamentalism in America. It would come up, they could push a button, they'd be all gone. They don't do that because they can't let people know that the substructure of the internet is owned, actually 40 to 45% was paid for by U.S. taxpayers. So Verizon, Sprint, AT&T, they would all close down. GE, all these, what's the name of the Canadian telephone company? Nortel?
Nortel.
Yeah, they're all subsidized. Amazon is subsidized. Facebook is subsidized. Google, all of them, they're all subsidized. They were all started with military money, which was taxpayer money. They got venture capital from the same old venture capital bankers and brokers who make a fortune off all of this, getting
right.
these government military contracts.
Just so everyone knows, Entrust was taken public in '98 by Goldman Sachs, and their law firm was Wilmer Dorr, which is now Wilmer Hale, which is Robert Mueller's firm. It's the same set of people.
It's so disturbing. It's so easy once you start finding the rat lines to follow the rats back and see where they're all hanging out. And they're not that clever. So when they created Richard C. Walker's patent, they left a trail. All we had to do was say, well, we know it exists, we have to find it. But I could not have imagined it would be this simple, this pervasive, this much money that they're making, this hidden, and probably goes right back to where it all goes, which is the Queen's Privy Council, because it's the UK, remember Canada, Australia, New Zealand, us, and the Brits. Oh, we're all brothers and sisters. We share everything. No, we do not. The other day there was an article that said the Five Eyes group is demanding that every single company give their cryptological codes to them.
They already have. I mean, this chart shows that is a complete ruse, that they already have all those keys.
And, Michael, were you also laughing when I said the Five Eyes group? There's no such thing. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
No, I'm looking at many more eyes on this chart than 5.
That's a very good
There's
point.
about 100 eyes on this chart.
And they're all corporate eyes, which are all international. Remember, when you say corporate, you say non-American, globalist, international, transnationalists who are gutting America. And so these corporate entities who are now creating this tax on every single thing on the internet, how is that net neutrality? How is it that when net neutrality was dropped, all of these corrupt people on the internet are having to pay billions of dollars in fines and lawsuits for privacy violations, for stealing your data and selling it and never telling anybody, for violating a decency code, everything imaginable. Now what's happening? Full pitch battle against Trump from the mainstream media and every single social media network.
On paper, the federal common policy which is at the center of this set of concentric circles with all these eyes on them, is managed by the chief information officers of his agencies. So on paper, the president has the singular authority to stop this nonsense today.
He could simply refuse to give charters to these people, but as you say, that would collapse the entire internet, which is probably what we need for a minute. Because what we're seeing here is the worst type of corruption built in from the beginnings. This stuff started the year after, you always talk about 1993, when they started building in the back doors because of the NSA and the FBI. They weren't going to let high-powered computers leave this country without being able to spy on them when they go to countries that they think are our enemies. So they built it in, and they said, hey, we got it. If they built it in for a country, they built it internationally, so it's in all of the American products too. So what we have here is the third eye of the internet. This is the eye that controls everything. It does not matter whether it's military, what country it is. It does not matter, folks. We own the internet, we the people, and we ought to take it back, because this is, once again, built-in corruption, British corruption, because guess what? It comes back to a secret committee. We don't even know who's on this committee. Some dude named Orlando Bravo, who, good name for a porn star, and somebody named Toma.
I have to laugh every time I hear that name.
They end up buying this fake monopoly company that comes from Canada that merges with a fake company in America, and then they buy it, and they're an asset management company managing $20 billion a year. Some company named Toma Bravo controls the entire friggin' internet. And that's all the secret ones too, folks, because when he's talking about those hubs or those nodes, those are the super top secret ones. Don't imagine in your mind that our government has anything different than this. Those are all subsets of this.
Right.
So the NSA and Vault 7 said this too.
If you look at the Symantec node, many of the government agencies are run by Symantec, and then there's a whole other set of agencies run by Verizon. So we've got private companies right at the center of this, and this is so much like Adolf Hitler's fascist organizations that he allowed to operate, and he decided who was going to win and who was going to lose based on who cooperated. And so the question is, who are these people cooperating with? Because it's clearly not the agency CIOs. And I'm going to answer that question. It's Globalist Senior Executive Service. That's who these people are taking orders from.
Yeah, I'd call them the digital Nazis, because it's just like you said. It's like the Soviet Union. It's like Hitler's Germany, but on steroids digitally. And they planned this from the beginning, their secret committees and their taxes, because the Queen always gets her golden share. So, internet, they want to make us think that nobody owns the internet, that nobody owns the substructure. No one will ever even address who owns the substructure. We do, and we pay for it every year, by the way. And we pay for it with taxes every single year, as well as we pay services, and then we pay taxes on those services.
Oh, yeah, our tax money is going into these nodes and is being shared across this underbelly of organizations that are all tied together. So they are surely laughing all the way to the bank.
And asset management company Toma Bravo may actually be running hundreds of millions of dollars through their company, because they're asset management, they can make any statement they want of how much assets they're managing. They say they manage over 20 billion. That doesn't mean anything.
That's just what they report.
Exactly. That means nothing. So, folks, we are talking about a group of a bunch of first-year IT people working in the government who don't have a clue that what the power they have in their hands, then simply say, we rubber stamp these corporations to do this. We allow them to charge supposedly federal, because they like to use this as a federal thing. If you look up federal, you're going to get Entrust, and you're going to believe that Entrust is a federal agency, unless you can figure that out otherwise, because it is so confusing. But if you did figure it out, and you realize that these little young IT people are then giving the governance to corporations that charge taxes, illegal international taxes, the largest ever in human history, and it goes to people that no one knows who that is because it's an asset management company, so you can hide everything. You could be paying Henry Kissinger, and you could be paying the people that we were told were actually on this Federal Bridge Certification Authority. We were told this is where the richest, most evil people go to retire, because they do nothing after that except collect their money, and that's what the system is. It's a tax system. And by the way, they don't check out who they give this authority to. They will give the same authority to a radical Islamic fundamentalist group as they will for anybody else, as long as they pay their taxes. You just have to pay the money. And so therefore, folks, the internet is more than weaponized. It has become basically what you'd have to consider a new nuclear threat.
Racket.
It is that, yes. What I'm going to say, though, next is terrible, but it's true. We pointed out that the wetware is already in place. We already pointed out that this stuff is happening where they collect everything digitally and goes into this one place. If you look closely, you're going to find now, in relationship to this, what they call e-government, e-ID, e-international ID, and I would say also probably the U.S. Digital Service, because they're the ones who coordinated all digital information to go to the government. So soon, the what would you call it? The prophecy of having 666 or your private number stamped on your body.
Mark of the beast.
It's going to be an implant. You already can get this card. And the
It'll
card
be this
connection.
Number. It'll be this number that these people are managing.
And that's what I was just getting ready to say. You get your card, and you are now, all of the people and all those hubs can now actually attack you. You can now be targeted because you just signed up for the show. They can actually probably aggressively remote control you because your chip won't work when you get into the automatic car that's supposed to drive you somewhere.
When you said card, it just triggered a memory here that if you type in Entrust now, they used to have a website, Entrust.com. Now it's called EntrustDataCard.com. So there you go. And it says the cloud platform that redefines authentication, and it's got a nice picture of a blonde girl.
If you read these lovely sites, you believe that you are missing something if you don't have that, what do they call it, the personal identification, verification, interoperability card.
Wait. This one says ensuring a trusted Internet of Things.
Oh, nice. Well, that's a shortened version. That's not what we named it. That's what we named it too. That's very funny. So what we have here, folks, is a digital prison. And we warned you this was coming through Alphabet and Eric Schmidt in the U.S. Digital Service. And they manipulated the last election, and they're doing it again this election, and they're going for broke. But what we're telling you is do not sign up for any kind of centralized computing system that gives your identification, your bank account, or anything else. Try to stay out of those systems because those systems are going to control you with what the patent says. Aggressive remote control of your life. And that's what the bottom line is here.
Right. And this is the mechanism, this is the engineering mechanism to make it happen. And they realized, it's pretty clear, they realized from the beginning that anybody that was tapped into this system had a cash cow for life because nobody's going to want their internet connection stopped. And so they're going to pay the fee. And it's like they've got you right where they want you. So what they did is they cut deals with all their buddies, and they created all these companies to decide who was going to win and who was not going to play. And we now see this scenario, and they had to publish it because there's too many people involved on the internet. So they had to publish it. they've got a really nice chart up on the web that shows all the web of interconnections. And the question is, what can President Trump do, in my mind? And what needs to happen is a group of honest brokers need to basically redefine this architecture and put the Constitution in it, because this is a fascist system. Full stop. It's not a communist system. It's a fascist system, because these people are all making money. They're all heading out to their beach houses and their second houses and their summer homes from the cash they're making from all of us. And so they don't want this to change. And so they're going to resist it like crazy.
Well, the corporate world learned from the federal world, and the federal world learned from the British processes. And those processes are always based upon the deception that if you trust the monarchy, they will protect you. You actually are in grave danger unless you entrust everything to them. And, everybody else is. And basically you can't really do anything without it. And they actually advertise that your return on investment is huge because of buying these certifications, buying these trust systems, these verification systems, these federal PKI systems, these private identification, verification, interoperability cards that basically is giving you your own little digital cube
666.
of a prison. And it is 666 because who is this? These are hidden people.
Right.
Under the auspices of trust, charging you taxes. Isn't that what the federal government does? Oh, give us your money and we will control the military. We'll make sure nobody overruns the country. We're going to give you Social Security. We're going to take care of everything. Schools, don't you worry. We have courts to take care of everything. Hey, social services, don't you trust us? Just trust us. That's exactly what I started reading when I'm studying this. I'm going, oh, I trust these people. They must be good people. Their propaganda is so powerful, pervasive, and convincing that if you went there and you didn't know that they were corrupt, there is no way you would ever imagine what we just told you.
Well, I was reading from that website. Empower your organization with access control.
That
SSL
warms the cockles of my digital heart.
need.
Oh, that makes me feel good. Say it again. Say it again.
SSL certificates to meet every need.
Oh, that makes me feel so much better, because I don't even know what an SSL certificate is, but I feel better.
Secure socket layer. It's the key to get you onto the internet.
Now, I just want to say something about tech people. Why is it that every single company in the Western world bows down over IT people? If there's an information technology problem, there is nothing even the president of the company can do. You can't hurry the IT people. You can't hurry the upload, the download, the fix, the workaround. We all bow to what you were calling 666. We all bow to the digital prison that we have voluntarily entered and tightly closed the door so that we could see the projection at us from all six sides of the cube at once. Full body, full spectrum, full virtual reality, full sex, full drugs, full whatever. They can flash lights at you and make you believe anything by the frequency and color of the lights. They can, in fact, implant through transdermal direct current induction anything they want without actually touching your body. So we have just empowered, and we pay a tax to a system that has all of those powers over us. We don't know it exists. We don't even know who Tama Bravo is, nor Orlando Bravo, unless, of course, he shows up in a porno film. But who is Orlando Bravo who owns the world? Who is this person? How did he get to own the world?
He was allowed to buy Entrust. Come on.
That's right. It was money.
He was selected.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he was. Oh, tell us about that.
Yes. And so we've what am I going to say?
What do you think he would have to do to be entrusted to this? You had just asked a good question. Who is this Orlando Bravo that he could be entrusted with the most powerful system? If he turned off this system, if he turned off the central hub the entire world would have more than a digital nuclear explosion everywhere in the world at once, except third world countries that are smart enough not to use the internet. It's Dr. Evil, Betsy says. Yes, it is.
There's 8 of them. There's 8 Orlando Bravos. He's just one.
Oh, okay. There's 8. That must be. They must have nice parties. Okay. Yeah. They must invite Oprah for entertainment. Okay. Now I want to go to one other thing before I drift off and we finish this conversation. But the dark net. The dark net can't exist according to this.
No, it's not the dark net. It's just a different use of these keys.
It's all such a myth. It's so great talking, because it's a mystery. When you said SLL and then you told me what those letters stand for, I was so impressed. You could have been making that up, but because I'm a digital idiot, we bow down when the digital king walks by. And the digital king is whoever can reel off the most techie words in a sentence and make people convinced of it. Oh, that's right. Trust the techies. Trust Emmanuel Bravo. Trust Entrust. Trust the Federal Bridge Certification Authority. Just trust. Oh, but pay your taxes too, because we get them every month. We don't wait for the year on this one. Now, I want to repeat that. This is a tax levied every month. I can't imagine how much money that is in a year.
Everybody's got to pay it. Otherwise, you don't get on the internet. You can't operate a website without it.
Well, there you have it. You cannot digitally breathe without paying. This, basically, this would be because we're giving away the back doors into all of our intelligence agencies, the Department of Defense, our satellites and everything else, our infrastructure. This is an attack upon the U.S. Constitution. It's a national security emergency, and it needs to be rectified by extricating anyone except Americans, and that means all international corporations from this system. Claim back what we already own, which is the internet. Kick out all the interlopers from the IBM Eclipse Foundation that started Google, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, PayPal, all of that. Simply take it back, clean it up, get the surveillance out of it, and start up again. And when that happens, folks, if it doesn't happen quickly and smoothly with one fell signing of the president's name onto that Miller Act check to Leader Technologies, which could solve it literally within a year, within 6 months, it would be completely transformed. In a year, you would have what you intended it to be, which was supposed to be the platform of freedom and patriotism and dignity and equality and all of the U.S. Constitution values. That's what you built it for, but it has been turned into the opposite.
It just struck me while you were talking there that this explains why Hillary was so cavalier about her private server, if you think about it. And that was always one thing that puzzled me. How could somebody who was the Secretary of State, who swears on a Bible to follow the Constitution, be so cavalier as to give anybody that pays her access to her computer? The only reason I think she would do that is she knows they already have that information through this digital key system. So she wasn't actually giving them anything that she knew they didn't already have. Wow.
Well, I appreciated my courtesy copy she sent me of every one of her emails, and so did all my Chinese friends. And yes, how could it be? Well, because she was there from the beginning. She knew what she was doing, and she set it up so she could not have a Freedom of Information Act request sent in by a patriot, by an American, by a citizen. She did that on purpose. She had previous staff that she saw in Bill Clinton's administration go to jail for the same thing. You cannot tell me it wasn't set up on purpose. And as you say, everybody that is part of this system has free access anyway. So it didn't really matter to her. She knew that everybody could get whatever they wanted anyway. Just like James Clapper. We don't surveil anybody. Oops. Next time. We surveil everybody. And now what does he say? He sent in a Russian spy into the Trump campaign. And what happens? Nothing. Nothing happens. The system of lawlessness that had become the standard operating procedure of the shadow government was institutionalized. And this sellout to corporations is the proof that the Senior Executive Service does exactly what they're supposed to do: give all contracts to globalists. So, Michael, when you figure out who Orlando Bravo is, and I want to see a picture of him, by the way, and who Tama is, and where who holds the golden share to this mess, I think you will have probably finally reached the ground zero of the people who have benefited by your stolen we will reach the people who stole your stuff from you and basically have become billionaires from it.
Yep.
Thank you, Michael.
I agree.
Let's talk
You're
soon
welcome.
and see what further you come up with from the mines. And thank you to all of your researchers.
Yes. Thanks to everyone who's helping us.